Hey everybody, Easy Mode here, and I want to showcase you my League Starter character that I've been playing, and it is a Cast on Freeze, Cast on Critical Strike StormWeaver. Now the Cast on Freeze, Cast on Critical Strike was the concept I was interested in. I first started with a Blood Mage, and it was not a good experience to play the Blood Mage, trying to make this work. So I pivoted to StormWeaver when GGG posted the new patch that kind of nerfed Cast on Freeze and Cast on Crit. Everyone thought that it's pretty much not a good gem anymore, and it's been working out for me. So I wanted to make this video to kind of showcase that it is still a decent build to play with. You'll notice here that I'm level 92 Stormweaver, and these are my current stats. Chaos Stress is a little low because I just switched to my shield to a Mahu shield, which I'll explain a little bit later. So I'm a little bit under Chaos Stress capped, but the more important thing I want to highlight on this particular page is my spirit. I need 190 spirit for this to work. And the reason why I need 190 spirit is because I'm using Grim Feast, Cast on Crit, and Cast on Freeze. 60, 130 is 190, so you need at least 190 spirit to make this build work. Now let's just jump into the passive tree to go over it really quick. We're pretty much playing a mana stacker. We're playing a mana stacker that doesn't follow the Archmage Spark rituals that everyone else is following. And we're trying to mana stack to make our comets our main damage. So you'll notice that a lot of my focus was around mana and scaling crit. Now to scroll down to my ascendancies, I went the Arcane Surge route. So I went Constant Gale and Force of Will. And I also went Double Shock just to get more damage from when I shock an enemy with a comet. I tried other stuff here like Scaring Winds, Tempest Caller, and it didn't feel as good as this. And this setup is what felt the most comfortable for me, even before I got my Mahu shield, which I got yesterday. And it felt the most consistent with me when it came to fighting pinnacle bosses, as well as just mapping in general. One thing to highlight is the fact that I have these jewels here that I think are very, very important to have across the passive tree. And there are jewels that have meta skills gain 15% increased energy, and then you can get two other, or three others if you get really lucky. Two other important stats. Like for me, I want to focus on increased maximum energy shield and increased critical hit chance, and that's sort of like my ideal jewel to use. But jewels are stupid strong in this game, and the reason why they're stupid strong in this game is because their values are so high. Like for instance, this one here, this gives me a 20% increased maximum energy shield. That's a notable. Or pretty much almost a notable. I mean, it's technically a notable down here, or even over here. It's like, no, that's 30. Yeah, like something like this, like 18%. It's a pretty big idea, a pretty big deal. And the meta skills increase energy by 15%. That's two small passes for this. It allows me to save points on my tree to get my dynamism here and energize, as well as invocation efficiency. But having that across my tree allows me to cast my Cast on Crit more frequently. Feels way better for bossing. And I think I'm just going to focus, finish off the tree by trying to focus on getting jewel sockets. Like my next two levels are probably going to go here to get this jewel socket, so on and so forth. But one thing to highlight about the tree is Heavy Frost. Heavy Frost allows me to do damage as though they have no resistances when they're frozen. Hence the reason why I'm trying to have a Cast on Freeze setup for that. And I believe exposure, maybe hyperthermia, allows you to push it below 0 to the negatives. So by freezing them, I'm able to do more damage, and my comets freeze because they crit. So, it is a setup that allows us to do freezing when it happens. So kind of TLDR, mana stacking, focusing on crit and trying to get damage anywhere. Yeah. So let's go over my gear. So this is my gear, and I'm not going to talk about any other pieces except for these 4 pieces here. Gloves, belt, boots, helmet. You just look for HP, maximum mana, resistances, and you try to fill out all your problems. Same thing with your rings. Your rings, you want to focus on HP, mana, maybe some mana regen, resistances, or stats that you need. It's kind of what I have here. My rings could be better technically, but hey, it is what it is. The one thing I want to highlight is the Mahu shield. This thing is busted. I don't know how to explain it outside of that. I was running a focus here for forever, and I was constantly having problems with mana during boss fights, and I was kicking myself in the head how to figure out that mana problem. And when I finally was able to buy a Mahu at 650% increased effect and put a maximum mana soul cores inside of it, it instantly fixed my mana problems, or it feels like it instantly fixed it. I go from 3100 mana, like 31.5 to 25. And that's huge because that's pretty much another cast of one of these comments that I can do without having to feel like I have no mana. The next one here is going to be this necklace here. You want to make sure that you have spirit plus level gems skills on it. You would ideally want mana, intelligence, and some resistance here is like your perfect one. You can get life as well. You can even get energy shield. This one was pretty good. I bought it pretty cheap, like 2 divs. Like I think, yeah, it was like 2 divs, something like that. It was relatively cheap, so I liked it. You want to make sure you also anoint conservative casting. You don't want to spend too much of your mana, and you want to make sure you reduce your mana. I was anointing this mental toughness, but there are times where you're gonna be what is considered low mana, which is below 35%, which is not that low if you look at it. And I thought it would be more consistent with the reduction of mana, just straight up for conservative casting. And it saves me points from pathing there, which was great. So there's that for the necklace. The chest piece dropped on the ground for me. It's fantastic chest piece. I don't think I'm ever going to replace this. But what you want to focus here is spirit with your resistances. And I personally focus on energy shield so I can get this higher. Yeah, your main point here is your spirit. And then last but not least is your wand. Your wand, you want to make sure you get mana with level skills. And you also want to get this gain extra as damage. Gain blah, blah, blah of damage as extra blah, 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 like elemental damage. I feel like that's hella strong on wands. It gives you more damage. It feels like it gives you more flat damage than anything else around these characters. And if ideally what I would have really loved to have is to drop this spell damage T1. It's giving me some mana and spell damage, whatever. Even if the spell damage was like T8, I still would rather drop spell damage to get a gain extra as a elemental, just because the fact that I feel like it scales better with what you're doing. But everything else about this is great. Critical hit spell, a critical damage bonus. You can do critical hit here, do cast speed, so on and so forth. So that's gearing. And then now we're going to jump into the gems. So for starters, I just have sigil power and a weapon swap, so I can swap to it when I'm fighting bosses. Gives me spell damage. That's all it really is used for. I'm going to be using mana in it anyways. Frost Wall is a way that we're map. So Frost Wall, one thing I do with Frost Wall, and I'll talk about it as well as with Frost Bomb, is the combo here is Frost Wall, Frost Bomb, blow up, go boom, boom. Sometimes this is not consistent. So like I'll try it again here and see if it blows up. So yeah, you notice the first one blew up with 1 Frost Bomb. This one didn't blow up with 1 Frost Bomb. Even speccing into Shattering Crystal here and spending 5 points to do so, that consistency was still not there. So I felt, well, if I'm not getting it consistently, I'm not going to spend the 5 points to go here, and I'll put the 5 points elsewhere, like this AoE node, for instance, which gives me more AoE and damage for my AoE scaling skills. From the importance, Frost Wall, you personally can have this on a 4-link, a 5-link, or a 6-link. I put Glaciation, Icicles, Magnifying Effect. If you put this on a 4-link, on a 5-link, I put Fountain Mana just to help me with my mana. And on a 6-link, I put Cold Pen. I don't really think you need Cold Pen, but I have no more damage gems or damage supports to help this. So I put Cold Pen on it. Io Winter is our applicant of exposure. So you need to do some damage with it, of course, but it's primarily used for cold exposure. So I have Unleash, Cold Exposure, and Strip Away. Those are like your primary 3 things that you want on this. And that's just because you're going to be applying exposure when you crit. And the higher you crit, the more you apply exposure. The 5th one is Inevitable Critical here. That allows you to crit more frequently, so you can apply exposure more frequently. And then last but not least, if you do 6-link it like I have, I put Rising Tempest here to get more spell damage, 12%. I know I'm not going to be casting any other spell, but at least it gives me 12%. Grim Feast, I put clarity here. It's just, it is what it is. Grim Feast is busted. It allows you to double your shield from 3.2k to 6.4k. Great for mapping. The two focused ones that I would focus on to make sure that they had 6 links is Cast on Crit and Cast on Freeze. So Cast on Crit allows you to crit whenever you're doing Eye of Winter here, and it's great for bossing. So I have a Comet set up with Spell Echo, Consecrated Effect, Inspiration, and Consider Casting. But in orders of importance in my opinion. Cast on Freeze, I have Comet, Spell Cascade, Cold Mastery, Impetus, and Energy Retention. Cast on Freeze is our mapping casting, and Cast on Crit is our bossing casting. They can kind of go hand in hand when you do boss, but that's the best way to think about them. So this is going to have way less damage than this one, but that's intentional. Frostbolt, I have it here because I like to spam it. You don't really need this, but I like to spam this and apply chill everywhere with Scatter Shot, Arcane Tempo, Wild Shards, and Blind. It allows me to blind the enemy when I do this. It gives me a little bit more survivability, but this is not needed if you don't feel like playing with all these buttons. Hyperthermia, I use to put negative resist on the enemy, specifically bosses. It's pretty big with all the AoE nodes I'm scaling with. So I have Expansionist and Heightened Curse. Probably can do a third one here. Don't really think too much into it, but there's probably a third one that's good here. And then finally, not least, Frostbomb. I have Fast Forward, Ingenuity, Elemental Focus, and Super Critical. And as I mentioned earlier, Frostbomb is really used to blow up the wall. I don't really use Frostbomb outside of mapping, and just mapping in general, just kind of just like, hey, look at this, I'm mapping, moving around, boom, 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 and it just blows up the wall to allow me to blow up my comets like that, right? So that's what pretty much Frostbomb is used for. But yeah, as I mentioned, this character feels really good to like do Trial Master, for instance, or do like the Trial of Sekimas, because you know once you get a boss frozen, or just once you get a boss frozen, it's just constant pelting of damage from comets, and it feels really good because it's really defensive in a sense that they're not attacking you because they're frozen, right? Mapping, as I mentioned, is a little iffy still, but if you can work around the mapping, it still feels fine. And she's probably going to be my dedicated Trial Master runner, because she makes running the Trial Master's invitations super easy and comfy, and I don't feel scared at all taking any of the mods there. Anyhow, that's the end of the video. If you do like the video, please like, subscribe, and comment below about the build. I'm also going to try to build a mobile Linux guide around this build in written form, and I'll be linking in the video below. And I hope you have a good day. Take care now. Bye.